And now it's time for Leadership of the Leaf with Dice and Austin. Let's jump in with a cut and a light.
All right, welcome everyone. This is another episode of Leadership of the Leaf. My name is Dice.
And my name is Austin.
And Austin, we have two topics that we will be talking about today. Our cigar topic is the flavor profile of a cigar. How do we get that? What's up with that?
Yeah, that's a great topic. It's a lot of subjective talk. So what we talk about that one, we're gonna have to be, our flavor profiles may not match what you get out of a cigar, but then we're gonna go fold into our leadership segment, and we're gonna talk about how to influence your team.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So, but before we kick this off, we always gotta, have our cigars. So, Dice, what are you smoking tonight?
You smoked one on a previous episode off my recommendation. It is a street taco, Rojas Street Taco Barbacoa. Yeah.
That was a pretty good cigar. I enjoyed that. And so, what are you pairing it with? Wait, don't tell me Hennessy.
Hennessy White. Yeah, Hennessy White.
Let's just move on from that one because Dice doesn't drink anything different other than Hennessy and or some variation thereof.
Now that we got that out of the way, I'm drinking Hennessy. Yes. What are you smoking, sir?
I am smoking a Diesel. It's a 2021 limited edition, but it's a Crucible by Diesel.
Oh, I like Diesel. I'm interested to hear how that one works out for you. And
yes, it's very good.
What are we pairing it with? Not Hennessy, right?
Not Hennessy. No. I'm gonna leave the Hennessy to you. I can never touch the Hennessy, and when it comes to what you got, your collection, I am pairing it with a lovely mojito, a nice refreshing mojito.
Oh, that is minty and goodness.
Yes, deliciousness.
So you enjoy the flavor of your mojito?
I do absolutely enjoy the flavor, because that is what we get when we pick out those culinary notes that tell us what we are tasting. Our tongue tells us what we're tasting. You okay over there? You got to take some notes of what the truth I'm about to spit right now?
No, I'm just wanted to take a good look at this flavor wheel, because the flavor wheel helps me kind of like decipher what notes I'm actually tasting. And for the folks out there that can't see the actual flavor wheel, it's pretty much a wheel, and the inner ring has very generic terms like wood or spice. And then the outer edge of the wheel actually breaks down what kind of wood that you would be tasting. Like cedar is a common one that we use. So if you used to use the flavor wheel, you would find wood, and then and be like, I'll take cedar.
Yeah. So I'm in the first third, obviously, of this Crucible, and I'm getting a wood earth note, and looking at this wheel that you lovely provided, it almost is like an oak, and like kind of a truffle almost.
Oh, okay. See, that's why I like the flavor wheel, because normally you would just say earthy. Yeah. But I also feel like there's a nut in there, like maybe like a hazelnut on the back end. All right, I can definitely understand that. That's good. And I'm not quite ready to give a flavor profile, but there's definitely some spice. Definitely some type of pepper. I want to say white pepper.
Ooh, white pepper. Well, it is a street taco, so I can definitely see that. But yeah, the flavor wheel. If you're new to cigars, I suggest Googling it. Or as I tell my wife to GTS, that's Google that shit. Because she asks me questions and I have no idea what the answer is sometimes, so I just tell her to Google that shit. But look it up if you're smoking and you're like, man, I just can't figure out this flavor note that is coming through on my cigar. Look up one of these wheels. Look it up on your phone. Most of us have smartphones. Look it up. It will just seeing the word will sometimes be like, that's what it is. Got it. Now I understand.
Yeah. Eventually I will toss one on our website. I'm working on one. I don't want to steal someone else's. I want to actually make our own. So as of right now, the one we're looking at, I stole from someone else from Googling. I GTS that. But eventually we will have our own leadership of the leaf flavor wheel up there for everyone else to actually utilize as well.
That's good. And so when we're talking about the flavors, yeah, I was just watching Bar Rescue prior to coming out and doing this episode, and they always talk about the balance of a cocktail. Well, cigars also have a balance. You don't want it to be too earthy or too woody or too spicy or something like that. There's got to be a balance, and usually you kind of try to find this balance between, you know, bitter and sweet and sour, salty, you know, all those 5 flavor senses of the tongue. Savory, I think it's the other one, or umami if you want to go the proper umami. I always equate that one to steaks because you know, when I cook my steak, so my wife's like, "Ooh, daddy," I'm like, "Ooh, yeah."
Oh my god.
But so you get these different flavor profiles, and you kind of get them all blended together, and it gives you a well-balanced cigar, a well-balanced whatever it is. If you're cooking, let's call it a steak or a chicken breast. Chicken has very limited natural flavor from the meat itself. So if you just dump a bunch of salt on it, it's going to be very out of balance. It's just a salty piece of shit at that point. But, you know, if you put a little salt, a little pepper, some garlic, some onion, you know, stuff like that, you get a nice, well-balanced grilled chicken breast, and it's delicious. Same thing with a cigar.
Yeah, that's how I look at the master blenders when it comes to these cigars, because they're so gifted at what they do with the resources that they have and everything that they know about the tobacco leaf, from the upper portion of the leaf to the bottom. What burn well, what's going to bring this amount of spice, just the way they manipulate everything. So it is almost like a master chef is compared to a master blender. I can definitely understand that, and man, do I love them.
Yeah, well, and those master blenders, they'll go smoke a pure, I don't want to call it a cigar, but just basically a rolled leaf of just one type of leaf,
like a shrew.
to get that flavor note of that one leaf, and they go, oh, okay. And it's like a cook taking a dab of a spice and you know, and tasting it and going, oh, okay, this is what this tastes like. That would pair well with this. And it's the same thing.
Yeah, I've seen many of the chef game shows or whatever, whereas the younger chefs, it's like tasting something they haven't cooked with before, just to see how can they pair it with whatever they got. Right,
it's the same thing.
It's like Chopped. You ever watch Chopped?
I do not.
Yeah.
I find if I watch too many food shows, I end up getting fatter. I don't know why. I feel like it's correlation.
Fair enough, sir.
Usually it has something to do with my eyes being bigger than my stomach. I don't know. Somebody said something about it one time, and I was like, "You're dumb." but that balance, you know, it also kind of refers to this as I'll say it refers to that balance is what goes into making the body of the smoke, right? So this is that the body refers to that smoke. So you can have, I call them chimneys almost, where they're just putting out a bunch of smoke nonstop. You can't hardly breathe in it. And then you got, you know, some that are a little bit more mild and some that barely put out any smoke at all, but they give you good flavor. So there's a wide range of this sort of stuff too.
Yeah, I often think of a mild cigar as compared to drinking drinking a light beer. Like a Bud Light. Yeah, it's like
like a blonde ale or something like that for our beer lovers.
Yeah. And then if you was to more of a full body that engulfs your mouth with smoke and covers the whole palate with smoke, heavy smoke, that's kind of like getting up in there your fine whiskeys and your XO cognacs.
Yeah, you know all about those cognacs, wouldn't you?
Love me some XO.
Yeah.
I just don't have XO money.
Yeah, right. It does nowadays. The body, you know, if somebody's talking about, hey, this is a full body cigar, they could talk about that as it's a little bit more of a heavy hitter. You're gonna get more bolder flavors. You're gonna get that spice. You're gonna get that cedar. You're gonna get those really distinguishable, punch you in the mouth kind of notes. Whereas if you go with like let's say Camacho Connecticut, that's a way lighter bodied. You're going to get nice creamy notes, maybe a little bit of toast here or there, maybe like a nice little nut on there or something, some sort of flavor profile. And they're a little bit nice and creamy. And they kind of, I personally like those when I go drink coffee.
Yeah, I definitely like those. Also, I like recommending the light creamy ones that's not so sharp in texture for new smokers.
Yeah,
because a lot of times they understand the complexity of a full body yet. Now I don't want to scare them off of a cigar. Now some people do jump in the deep end and go right for it, but
more power to you.
Yeah, I want to introduce people in. Even like myself, I had to start off with some gas station type cigars when I first started.
Well, yeah, I mean, and even I've said it before. I started out with Gurkhas, which are very full-bodied cigars, and I just kind of struggled through them here and there. And then I was like, you know what? Let me start learning more about this thing that I'm putting in my body. And so then I was like, well, let me try one of these Connecticut's, and that's when I really started getting my flavor profiles down with those light creamy. I started getting those more subtle notes and everything else. And the body can also kind of blend straight into that strength of a cigar. Yeah,
strength refers mostly to like the nicotine output of a cigar.
Yeah, when you stand up and you're like, ooh, I'm a little bit woozy, and I've only had one glass of whiskey, and you're like, how is this a thing?
I just remember first started working or whatever. There was one of my partners in crime. He put like a dip in his mouth, and he was like completely dizzy, had to sit down. So that was like a nicotine rush overload, right? Yeah. So that's how some cigars can be. So when it refers to strength, that's kind of what it's talking about.
Yeah, I remember I took a hiatus, about a 5-month hiatus from cigars. And when I came back, you and me were talking over video chat. And I remember I smoked like an EP Carrillo or something like that. And I was sitting there and I was just drinking water. And you're like, you okay, man? And I was like, dude, this thing hit me knocked me on my ass. I've, now kind of gotten my tolerance back up. But it definitely, nicotine can affect you. If you get a more full-bodied cigar, expect a higher nicotine level, so to speak, and you might get that little bit more of a nicotine buzz off of those things.
Here's a semi-pro tip: sweetness, chocolate, a piece of candy. Just get some sugar in your system, and it'll help counterbalance that nicotine buzz.
Yeah, you sent me some mints. And I use those every once in a while, and those tend to help out pretty much a lot. But as we talk about the strength and the body and everything else, we also need to talk about the aroma, and this is not to everybody's liking in the world, contrary to what we would like to believe.
The bouquet, the room notes, they're so pleasant, said no wife ever.
Yeah, unless your wife smokes cigars with you, then she's probably like, yeah, go for it. Yeah. It's funny to me that I was I think I've told this story, but I was out at a wine tasting festival with my wife, and I was just walking through the crowd, and next thing I knew, I was like, somebody's smoking a cigar. I know somebody's smoking a cigar because I could smell it. And I heard, because people are like, oh, you can smell a cigar smoke? That's so gross and disgusting. I'm like, no, it smells delicious. I finally found the gentleman, and he was more than happy to talk with me and everything else. But I was just like, that's such a sweet smell, and but it's not for everybody for sure.
I was at a stoplight. It was earlier this week. I was at a stoplight, and I had my windows down. And I smelled cigar smoke. And I was like, oh, that smells familiar. Like, I know this cigar. I know this cigar. So the guy beside me was smoking a cigar. Yes, he was smoking an Underground Maduro. I was like, nice. This is kind of sad, but cool. And it was pretty cool.
Well, you and me were sitting outside that Raiders game smoking Crazy Alice. And we had that gentleman walk past us. He was like, that's such a sweet smell. And we're like, best thing in the world, bud.
Wish I had an extra one for you.
Facts. That was a great time. But yes, the aroma can give you a hint as to what the flavor notes are going to be. It's a little bit harder. I mean, taste does have something to do with the smell. That's why when you smell something foul, you can almost taste it in the air. And you're like, it's just a smell, but you can almost taste it. It's so bad. Well, that's because your sense of taste actually has something to do with your sense of smell as well. Don't ask me the percentage. I don't know.
Was that olfactory?
Yes, the olfactory.
The thing with the aroma is it kind of supposed to bring up the memory synapses in your brain. Like, this is cinnamon roll. I'm kind of getting a cinnamon roll. And you don't really get all that from just the flavor of your palate. Your memory kind of conjures up that smell of that cinnamon that you're getting. So all of it kind of plays a part. That's why these things are so meditative.
Yes, we talked about that in an episode. But then, we also talked about the finish. After you finish smoking the cigar, there's something that I call, and I think I've heard it called this in the industry, is palate trauma.
Yeah.
Right? So it's how long does that aftertaste, that cigar taste, linger on your palate? Does it get worse with time? Does it get better with time? Does it have a short finish and a long finish? Exactly. If you smoke something with a short finish, it's not going to stay on your palate for very long. Versus you smoke something with a long finish, that's going to be on your palate all day, every day, and even to the next morning when you wake up and you're like, I taste the ashtray.
Well, I have a finish tester, and she will let me know if I still smell that cigar the next day, the following day, whatever. And she will say, man, well, I don't know what cigar you smoke, but man, it's strong. It's like coming out of your pores. Well, that would be a long finish.
Yes. Those built-in lovely things that we call wipes. But yeah, so if you're smoking cigars, you want to smoke your shortest finish first, and then start going into your longer finishes. That way, you're not ruining the taste of your other cigars with a long finish. A lot of people, you have that. We don't have aperitifs, or palate cleansers and stuff like that,
Yeah.
We don't eat sherbet in between cigars. But see, that's why you want to do it.
One thing, because you mentioned aperitifs. One thing, we'll get into it probably at a different episode, but pairing. So depending on what you're drinking, it's going to cover your palate, which will also can change the flavor profile of your cigar ever so slight, or it could change it a lot. And just as you mentioned at the beginning, I mean, so you smoked a cigar and I smoked a cigar, and we both got something slightly different. They were in the same playing field. Like if you used to look at the flavor wheel, it was still the main inner circle, but we just both kind of went a slight different direction.
Right. And and I mean, that's why, not everybody is a cognac drinker. Not everybody's a whiskey drinker. Not everybody likes steak or pork or whatever, there's different, whatever floats your boat, so to speak. But there's different tastes for everybody in there, and it's all depending upon your palate and everything else. And I will say this, that I'm almost positive I've read this in a book. So if I'm wrong, please correct me, because I genuinely like to learn. But your taste buds change about every 7 years. You get a whole new taste buds on your tongue. So if you don't like something, wait 7 years and then try it again.
I'm gonna mark my calendar now. I don't like this. Come back 7 years later.
Well, you look at kids, right? I don't like broccoli.
Chicken nuggets and mac and cheese.
Oh, Jesus. That's what all my kid lives on. But so for me, I'll give an example for myself. I used to not like avocado at all. Didn't like guacamole. I didn't like just regular avocado on a sandwich or anything. Didn't like it. Now I love fresh avocado on like a bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwich. like a BLT or some sort of sandwich that has it. I love the avocado. I think it just brings out perfectly.
You're the only one, my friend.
Well, that just makes you a communist.
I'll be that. I don't like guacamole or avocado.
Guacamole is still, I don't like it, but that's a texture thing for me. I don't like cold mush on a
I tried it.
chip.
My kid loves it. My kid and wife, they'll mile that shit down. Nom, 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 nom. I'm like, fuck.
Nope. give me some queso and salsa. Y'all can have the guac. I don't give a shit.
Pico de gallo.
I love pico de gallo. But I'm about in my second, third now.
All right, I can join you there.
I'm still getting like that oak. It's kind of blending into a cedar-ish now. I'm definitely still getting that earthy, almost peaty truffle kind of space, but I'm also getting a little bit of hint of spice on the back. It's either spice or pepper, but I think it's spice. Don't ask me which one because it's very subtle back there.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, a lot of the diesels that I've smoked, I often get that peaty, and I really can't like distinguish the earth between the peaty. I really get that when the diesels that I have smoked.
Yeah, I do like the diesels. But what about you? What you got?
Mine is actually the spice in it. The peppery spice is actually turning into more of a meaty kind of flavor, and this is why I love the street taco. I don't know if it's the name that's throwing that flavor profile at me, but that's what I'm getting. It's like when you make a street taco, you make the taco meat inside.
You almost get that like allspice beef kind of taste.
Yes, and I'm waiting for the creaminess to come in because I remember it, and I'm just looking forward to it because I know this is a brilliant smoke. Yeah,
it is a good smoke. But when we come back from our quick break, we're going to get into our leadership segment of how to influence your team.
Yes, which is how to influence others and make friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll take a quick break. Yeah, right. But we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Hey, Austin.
Yeah.
Hey, I know you was doing this leadership of the Leaf podcast, and you were smoking on some cigars.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, how would I know what cigars you're smoking?
Oh, that is a phenomenal question. At the beginning of the episodes, we always talk about what cigars we're smoking. But if you want to see a picture of what the band looks like, because maybe you can't find it or we didn't explain it good enough, you can always go to our Instagram or our website, and we'll post pictures of what we're smoking and usually what we're drinking with every episode. All right, and welcome back to Leadership of the Leaf. We just talked about all our flavor notes and profiles and everything that goes along with tasting these wonderful things that we like to smoke. But now we're going to get into our leadership segment of how to influence your team. And I got to say, I think the first point you hit the nail on the head, and that is just building trust.
Yeah, we kind of alluded to building trust. I think it's one of our first episodes where it's like you got to walk the walk and talk the talk. That's kind of how you're going to build trust, because that's the foundation of any great leader.
Yeah. But trust is the foundation upon which all relationships are built, period.
Correct.
So if you don't have trust, you don't have a team, and then that makes you not a leader at all. It makes you a wannabe.
Well, the whole point of being a leader instead of a wannabe is you want your team, you want them to be comfortable and relying on you. You want them to be able to rely on your actions to help motivate and move the team forward.
Yeah, I just had somebody this week at work. I told them, I was like, "Oh, you like me?" He's like, "No, I mean, you're cool, but I don't really know you. But I do like working for you. You're awesome to work for." And I was like, "What? Why do you say that?" And he goes, "Because every time you make a decision, I know that it's the right one, and I know that if it's the wrong one, you'll admit to making the wrong mistake, the wrong decision. because you have all the information and we'll go in the correct direction. He goes, I love that about you. I could just know that you're marching us in the right direction.
Yeah, that's definitely a clear sign that your team is trusting you.
Yeah, and it was just great to hear because, you know, as leaders, you need that feedback. And because if you don't get that feedback, whether it's positive or negative, then most people would just, I kind of take that as either people don't like me or people fear me too much to actually be able to give me that feedback. And that then I have to look at myself and I say, am I staying humble? Which is the next point is you got to stay humble, because if somebody comes up and they take the time out of their day and they're vulnerable to you to say, hey, sir, ma'am, whatever, you know, I don't think this is the right course of action. I think you handled that situation incorrectly. Here's how I think you could have handled it better. You got to be humble enough to accept that and be like, yeah, you're right. I made a mistake. We're all human. We all make mistakes.
Yeah, being humble is just able to see yourself as being not above everyone else. You're not at top of the pyramid. You're right there in the bottom with everyone else, but you're one step ahead to help lead everyone on. If you don't be humble, then not many people take a good liking to that. So humbling yourself, being able to pretty much laugh at yourself, it's going to cause that trust to even build more.
Right, and because they know that they could come to you with problems, questions, concerns, bitches, gripes, complaints, anything that they need. I constantly tell people, if you guys got a problem with anything that I'm doing or that my direct subordinates are doing, come talk to me. I'll talk to you about it. I'll tell you why I made the decision that I made. Unless it's a do or die type situation. Yeah, the timing is right for that. Yeah. In which case, I expect you to do what the heck I tell you to, and then we'll have a conversation afterwards. But by doing that, you know, you gotta stay humble. You kind of gotta also help people find their voice. You know, and be able to voice that question, that concern, that bitch, that gripe, that complaint, whatever it is, or even what, you know, hey, let me find that voice. Hey, bud, it's okay. I get it. You're new. It's okay to speak up. If you got an idea that has not been shouted out yet, and I'm asking for ideas, shout it the fuck out. Yeah. Because maybe you feed off that. Maybe that idea doesn't work, but this motherfucker over here feeds off that idea, and we could start the ball rolling, and we come up with a great plan kind of based off of your idea and what you said. But if you just stay quiet, then we're going to run around in circles. Yeah, I experienced that this week. There's a team that's producing widgets, and the directions go A, B, C, D. And the team kind of actually spoke up to the actual leader. It wasn't me, but it was another guy. And said, it'd be better if we go A, B, D, C because of how this process works. And the leader was like, okay, let's try it that way, because the vision that the leader has explained is still there. We're still moving towards that vision, the concept and the idea that he was moving forward to. And then the team kind of spoke up. Everybody was engaged. They moved forward, and yeah, the idea actually worked. So they switched the game plan just a little bit, and it produced more widgets in the long run. Yeah, and that's so important to me, as to, you know, if the youngest, newest person of your team can feel comfortable enough to say, bring up a concern to you or to a leader or some other leader on your team, then that means that you're doing something right, because that's helping them find their voice. That's helping you generate good ideas and everything else. But with that comes, you got to make sure that you kind of know, you walk the walk and you talk the talk. We talked about this before, but you got to show that competence. You got to know what the hell you're talking about in the process that you're trying to do. I can't go into a Fortune 500 company that I don't know anything about and be like, we're going to do things this way. It doesn't work that way. I don't know what the hell their industry is. I can't go into fucking Quaker Oats and be like, hey, now we're going to start producing fucking tanks. They don't fucking know anything about that. Yeah, that's true. I was on a business trip one time, and the leader that everyone was following, I even followed because I'm a good follower. For all great leaders, there's got to be great followers, right?
but the guy was 100% incompetent. I shouldn't say 100%, 99% incompetent. So I utilized my knowledge that I know and explained to him the process of how something should work, and he totally ignored me. And then when he left the area and I had the rest of the team with me, I showed them what I was talking about, and it worked like a charm. So later on in that business trip, everyone kind of looked to me for guidance instead of that individual, because he didn't have the competence, he didn't have the know-how. So I was able to walk the walk and talk the talk, and then all the Pied Piper children followed.
Yeah, and that goes a long way to building that trust. I have great respect for leaders. I have the utmost respect for bosses, like on Undercover Boss. I have great respect for those bosses that are willing to go down into the weeds to figure out how is their processes that they're putting at top, how is their processes reaching the bottom, and how is it affecting the bottom, and what can they do better that they're not seeing, and they're not getting that stuff brought up to them. And they're showing that competence. They're like, hey, I get it. Like, I've been where you are. I've swept out the fucking the bathrooms. I have taken out trash. I've done whatever. I get it. I understand now what the bitch, gripe, and complaint is. Let's move forward and make this new process work.
I do like about that show, or just in general, is when someone says, "Oh man, this sucks." Like, okay, I hear your voice. Now I'm gonna help you find that. Why does it suck? Why would you say it sucks? What is the process that sucks? Like, I need more than it just sucks. And that's a problem that a lot of people fall into, is they don't like something, but they don't know why they don't like it. So you help them find that voice. That's what a leader is going to do.
Right. And there's an adage, the story that, we've just always done it this way. I hate that. Right. But there's that adage where they took the monkeys and they put 5 monkeys in a cage, and they gave them a ladder, and they suspended a banana. Well, of course the monkeys went after the fucking banana, right? Well, every single time they just sprayed. Every time they did that, they started spraying the monkeys down with cold water, so that they didn't want to get the banana anymore. Well, they started taking old monkeys out who knew why they were getting couldn't get the banana, and then they brought in new monkeys. Well, the new monkey wanted to go get the fucking banana. They didn't spray them, but the old monkeys started attacking the new monkey who went to go get the banana, because they knew what was going to come. Well, eventually, they took all the old monkeys out that had actually gotten sprayed and brought in all new monkeys that had never been sprayed, and you saw that same behavior every single time. And then it goes back to why the fuck are we doing it this way? I don't know. This is how we've always done it. Yeah. Okay. You got to get that voice. You got to find somebody help them find their voice and be, humble and competent enough to understand why they're bringing it to you the way they're bringing it to you. Sometimes the old ideas that didn't work then, maybe they needed new technology that wasn't available 5 years ago. And you can go out there and get new technology, and that will make the process work, and it actually becomes a great thing. You never know, but it's always worth going back and looking at, why do we do the things that we do?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. I call it monkey see, monkey do syndrome.
Yeah, 100%. And when you help others find their voice, you're providing that chance for a small win. I like to sit there and tell my people, hey, I want you to do this. Well, that sucks. I got it. I know it sucks. But if it sucks, then they get recognition for doing such a good job on it. And they're like, oh man, that was a little bit of suck, went a long way. So now I'm set up for promotion, or whatever the case happens to be. Now I got a raise because of you pushing me to get that small win. Yeah.
It's a bunch of small wins that, one, it helps build confidence. Two, it takes away the overwhelming prospect of looking at the bigger picture. You can leave the bigger picture in your leadership lap and just break it down to smaller wins for your team. And that's on boost the trust, boost everything, boost the morale. Just the small wins is going to do that.
Yeah, there's a quote that I love because I like the duality of it. But the quote is from Jim Rohn, and he goes, "Failure is not a single cataclysmic event. You don't fail overnight. Rather than that, failure is a few errors in judgment every day, repeated over many days. The same thing could be said for success. Success is not a single great event. You don't succeed overnight. Rather, it's a lot of great choices made through time, repeated every single day. That's what small wins are about. You're going to succeed if you keep making small wins happen every single day.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
That's one of my favorite quotes.
One thing you can do with the small wins is you can focus on just believing in your team. When a person knows that you believe in them, it helps motivate them to achieve more. It helps motivate them to achieve the small wins more and more and more. So it's because sometimes you'll have that one stray that's off to the side, like nobody likes me. No, I can't do anything right. If you believe in that one person, be like, hey, I think you can actually produce this widget today. I have faith in you. You can do it. And if they do it, great. If they don't do it, teach them from their mistakes that they were making, then try it again the next day to get that small win. You just have to believe in your team.
Yeah, I had a guy, he's pretty new at work. We just gave him increased responsibilities. He's kind of working a little bit above his pay grade, and we're working on getting him that promotion. But we gave him a little bit of extra responsibility. Well, he made a mistake, and I talked to him about it. I said, "Hey, man, you made this mistake." I wasn't mad about it, and he immediately was like, "I'm sorry, it'll never happen again." Da, da, da. I was like, "I believe in you, dude. It's new responsibilities. I expect you to fail every once in a while. You're human. Nobody's perfect. I get it. But I'm going to believe that you can do a great job over the long run. I'm not focused in the short term. I'm focused in the long run. Are you going to keep making that mistake? Are you ever going to make that mistake again? No. All right, cool. Yeah. Then I believe that you can go forth and succeed and conquer."
When I got promoted to the position I'm in, my boss pulled me to the side and that you can take on this job. I really believe you're the guy for this job. And I mean, I felt that I was good for the job already, but just hearing my boss say it, that she believes in me, then that gave me that, utmost confidence. I was already there, but that gave me my pat on the back that I needed to move forward.
Yeah, it always helps to know that even if you think you're doing a good job, or even if you think you're doing a bad job, and you just get, "Hey, I believe in you. I know you can do this." That sometimes just means the world.
Yeah.
So as a leader, it's sometimes just, if somebody you see is struggling and they usually don't struggle, hey, you got this, man. I know that you do. I know you can lead this project. I know you can. I know you've never led a project before. I got it. But I know that you can do it.
Yeah. I often utilize the believe in your team members. Also, think big for others. I always see the highest potential that I can possibly see in someone. I'm not going to set the ceiling too high, but even with you, where I remember talking with you, and I'm like, I can see you becoming a much higher position than you were when we worked together. And I don't know if you took that to heart or not, but I wanted you to believe that you can actually achieve, higher authority than what you was actually at.
Oh yeah, no, I remember that conversation, and that honestly helped because I was the new guy on your team. I was there for 6 months, and there was people there for over several years. And when you told me, you're like, "Look, you're already outperforming these other Joe Schmoes. I believe you're better than, you could be better than all of these guys put together." I was like, "Hell yeah, let's do this, man." That gave me a little bit extra pep in my step.
Yeah, I think I actually said to you I want to see you supervising these guys one day.
Yeah, yeah, and I was like, "Hell yeah, let's do this, man. I'm ready. Let's go." But I knew that I had a lot to learn, and by staying humble, I knew that I had a lot to learn before I could even get there. So I had to do that. But now that I'm in a much higher position than I was, I turn around and try to do that for others. I try to serve others first because, and this is my philosophy. If I take care of the team, they take care of me. If I take care of my boss could take care of me. and it just goes back and forth, up and down the chain, up and down the hierarchy, your organization, whatever. If you take care of your boss, they're going to notice that you're taking care of them, and they're going to turn around and take care of you.
Yeah, that's true. And your team, the same for your team.
And
there's many times I have seen that like come back triple, double fold because of the leadership position I was in. My team will often help carry me to the finish line if need. I'm the pivot point. I'm the pinnacle of this to bring everyone together.
Yeah, and that also means, I would say, this is not on our notes, but I will say, if you made a bad decision or one of your team makes a bad decision and you kind of you endorsed it, or you didn't say anything, you endorsed it by your passive approach. Take responsibility for what your team did. Now, if they went against what you told them to do, that's a different story. But if you were like, yeah, let's go with that plan, and something happens, then you got to be right there, front and center, and making sure that you get the blame, because they're going to see that you got their back.
Yeah, there's so many times I've seen leaders do that. They fall to the wayside when something doesn't go right, and then they immediately point the finger at their team instead of torch themselves. So yeah, that's a very valid point, sir.
Yeah. So, this also goes back to there's a balance between autonomy and authority. And right now I kind of got this problem. I have my guy. He's a good dude. He's young, upcoming. He's great. He likes to think he's more autonomous than he actually is, and likes to try to challenge my authority. And sometimes I got to kind of gut check him and make sure he understands I still have authority over all of this. This is my domain that I have to control. I need to make sure that you understand that while I give you a certain level of autonomy, ultimately it's my responsibility, and therefore my authority is absolute over you.
Young whippersnappers, as I like to call them, they're rookie of the year. They're coming up, they're hot. They're coming in the game hot, and they think they know everything. That's how a lot of young people think, right? They think I got a teenage daughter. She knows everything. I'm just dad. I don't know anything, right? So it's a fine balance in there. But as long as you make sure that, hey, I'm the dad. Hey, I'm the one in control of this. I'm driving this bus or ship or whatever. And hey, it's up to you if you want to fasten your seatbelt or not. By all means, you're going to be on the same bus.
Yeah. Exactly. I got to bring you with me, but I'm still going to give you a certain level of freedom because I want you to grow and flourish and learn. So I'm like, I always like to sit there and say, look, don't do that to my kid. He's 4, so I have a lot more authority over him. But hey, don't do this. And he does it anyways, and he gets hurt. I'm like, so do we understand why dad told you not to do that? Yeah. All right, cool. So now you learned that dad has authority and everything else. Now I'll flex that authority if I have to, and he's just doing something. Tonight he was going to throw a book at a wall because he was having a temper tantrum. I exercised that authority and was like, no, we don't throw books. We don't throw things at walls that can damage walls. Stuff like that. But in the grand scheme of things, you got to make sure you have that balance, because if too autonomous of a team, they're going to go, why do we need this guy? Yeah. Or girl? Why do we need this leader when they're not even really here? They're just coming to get checkups on us. We obviously can manage ourselves.
Yeah, just a bunch of undisciplined cowboys, sir.
Yeah, undisciplined cowboys. If you're trying to get that balance, sometimes the best way to do that is to influence them with your character. You got to do right. You got to do the stuff that you're telling them to do. You got to walk the walk. You got to talk the talk. You can't say, hey, do what I say, not what I do. That ain't going to work. Nobody's going to respect you, and nobody's going to sit there and listen to anything you have to say. There's a story told about a cop. He'd never go to church, right? And finally the pastor reached out and was like, hey man, your wife, your kids all come to church. Why don't you come to church? Try it out. And so the cop's like, fine, I'll come to church. Sat through most of his sermon, and then towards the end, the preacher was saying, hey, these two pillars of our church community are up here. They're ready to take any, whatever. And the cop got really mad and walked out. So after the service, the pastor went over and said, hey, I noticed you walked out and got really mad. What's going on? He goes, those two people that you said were the pillar of your church community, I just picked them up for drunk and disorderly last night and had to put them in the drunk tank until this morning. And you're saying they're the pillar of your community? No. So you can't sit for stuff and expect people to be like, yeah, I'm going to follow that guy.
Yeah. It's a mistake that a lot of leaders, I call it talking to the shoulder angels. Sometimes they want to do one thing, but they know the right thing they need to do. As a leadership position, whether you like it or not, you're always being watched. You're always being watched. You're very influential to the younger generation. You're very influential to your team, whether you want to be or not. I think Charles Barkley used to say it a lot in his commercials when he started. He was like, I'm not a role model. That was like one of his biggest things he used to say. Well, sorry, Sir Charles, you're a role model. You play basketball, you get paid millions, people buy your shoes. You
watch you on TV.
You don't have that option.
Yeah. I watched a documentary on Allen Iverson and
I love
how
Allen.
I do too. AI is one of my favorite ball handlers of all time. I think he's one of the greatest. He brought a much more hip hop culture to basketball than had ever been there before. Well, he was influencing with his character and his decisions and everything else. And I talked to my boss 2 levels up as she was talking to me, and I had her riding around with me. We were checking on a bunch of stuff, and she said, it's funny, I'll say something just off the cuff, not really meaning it to go into policy or procedure, and my team takes it and runs with it, and next thing I know, it's already put into practice. And she's like, yeah, that was supposed to be a joke, but I did say that, so I guess I can't take it back now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny just to see that.
Yeah, I've witnessed stuff like that before, and it's like, you know who you are. You can't say stuff like that. Now the whole team is doing that. All of a sudden, everything's changed because the boss said so. Right,
and that's one of those things where you got to be, if you're in a leadership role, you got to be careful of what you talk about.
Which leads into the next topic, which is clarify your expectations. So if you're the king of walking around and saying just whatever, people are going to start following what you said. You should clarify what you meant instead of just saying something off the cuff.
Right. Leaders get, unfortunately, everything you say, whether you mean it to or not, gets taken as gospel, so to speak.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't mean it that way, it's like, oh yeah, that's the truth because this guy said it and he's a leader, he must know. No, I didn't. I was just talking out my ass. Oh, well, now I got to make sure. But my other thing with this whole set expectations, to be very clear, this. I had a fight with one of my previous bosses. He never set expectations for me at all. And we have a yearly performance report, and he tried to mark me down on my performance report. And I said, how are you marking me down on my performance report? He goes, well, I gave you feedback. And I said, no, here's the feedback paper that you gave me. It says nothing about what you're trying to mark me down for. And here's where I've excelled, in my opinion, that I've excelled in all these areas. How are you gonna measure my performance based on this shit feedback? You didn't make your expectations clear. How am I supposed to know? This is what you wanted.
Right. That's just not making your expectations clear at all. And there's so many leaders out there. Not everyone is a leader. Let me say that now. Not everyone is a leader. So there's certain aspects you have to either learn how to become a good leader over time, or you're just going to become one of these shit rocks that just flying by the seat of your pants.
They're in the way, is what I tell them.
My wife has a saying, like, either you're with me or you're in the way.
Yeah. I used to watch House of Cards.
Good show.
Yeah, and there I remember a scene. Kevin Spacey was talking with the barbecue owner, restaurant owner, and he goes, telling a story about how the fridge was falling out on the freeway, and he's like, you know, when a fridge is falling at you at 70 miles an hour, you get it the fuck out the way. And Kevin Spacey like kind of looks at the camera and is like, see, that's the difference between me and him. I expect the fridge to move out of my way because it's an obstacle in my path. You know, so stuff like that. But once you set clear expectations, you got to also be passionate about what you're doing. Because if you have no passion for what you're doing, it's going to be seen. You're going to have a lackadaisical attitude. You're not going to give a shit. And people are just going to go, oh, if the boss doesn't give a shit, why do I need to give a shit?
Yeah, there's been so many like crummy tasks that I've been in charge of or involved with. And it's just one of those things. I have to grin and bear it. I don't necessarily agree with the stuff that I'm being told that has to be done, but I don't relate to the team. I relay a more positive attitude, a passion for like, hey, we can get this done, guys. Let's just go and knock this thing out. Then we'll be done with it for the day. I mean, it's just a passion. It can be genuine or it can be forced. But if you have a way of showing that it's genuine, even when it is forced, it's going to go a long way. That your passion is going to resonate throughout your whole team. They're going to follow suit.
Yeah. Just recently, my team has had to do. We've basically had to pick up other teams' slack, and they came to me and they're just constantly bitching. I said, guys, I don't know what you're bitching about. And they're like, well, what do you mean? We got to do all this really shitty tasks. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So you mean we get to sit there and show how awesome we are all the time, and we get to fucking do a great, be a great job and get this stuff done and show that why we're the best? Why are we bitching to get a chance to show why we're the best? That's like if fucking LeBron James he bitched about having to go play a game to show that he's still the king. No, excuse me, that's what one, that's what you get paid to do. Two, why would you not relish an opportunity to show how badass you are? Even if it's a shitty task, do it great, and you'll get rewarded for it later on.
Like echo of nothing but pride. I love the word pride.
Yeah, I do too. So with this passion that you want to exude, you also want to make sure you're open. You want to talk regularly.
Good job.
Yeah. With your subordinates. Hey guys, how's everything going? Are you okay? How's your life outside of work? Anything that I could do? Maybe a work schedule shift. Maybe I could be more flexible and let you work from home because you got a kid situation. Hey, how's your task? How's your new role fitting you? How's all this stuff? Hey, do you have an idea? I know this task really sucks. Or hey, this new procedure or policy is not the greatest. Do you have an idea that we can make it better and turn it to our advantage, where it's not a weakness, it's now a strength for us?
Yeah, you demonstrate the openness. At the same time, you're also getting to know your team. So you're kind of doing like a twofold action, and you keep that conversation moving in a positive viewpoint, keeping that conversation open with your actual team. This will help you not only get to know your team better, but it also is going to demonstrate that openness that you are willing to sit back and listen to what your team has to say.
Yeah. And with this, we've touched on this before, so I don't want to go super in depth with these. But with this, you gotta watch your nonverbals. I don't know how many times I've had nonverbals. Their nonverbal cues don't sync up with the words that they're coming out of their mouth. Yeah, and it drives me nuts because I pick up on it. I know a bunch of other people can pick up on it, but you got to be aware of your body language, your eye contact, and everything else. If you're not, then it's just not going to go well. Your message is not getting across the way you think it's getting across. I guarantee it. If you're saying, "Hey guys, we need to be open and do all this stuff," but you have your arms folded and your shoulders down and you're kind of hunched over, "Hey guys, we need to be open," people are going to be like, "The fuck is he talking about? No, what? No."
Well, you don't want to see the president on TV giving a speech and he's slouching in his chair.
Yeah, like no, he's always if he's behind the desk, he's always open, lean forward, arms on the desk, in a very professional, calm manner because that's what he wants to exude. And so if you're tapping your foot, I'll be honest. Right now, the biggest nonverbal cue I get from anybody is their cell phone. Where is their cell phone? Is their cell phone in their hand? Is it on the desk? Is it face up, face down? No. Put that thing in your fucking pocket or in a desk drawer. If somebody comes in to talk to you, it drives me nuts. And they have their phone out on their desk in front, in between. Is that really showing them that they're as important as your fucking phone?
Yeah, because the eyes will dart down when a text or something comes through.
Or even if it's not, and they're just checking the watch, checking the time, whatever it is. It just gives the impression that they're not as important as you say they are.
Correct.
And that goes to maintaining eye contact.
Yeah, that's another strong one, because a lot of people are scared of authority sometimes, and they don't want to create that eye contact because once again, it helps build that trust.
Yeah. If somebody's trying to tell you a story of, hey boss, I made a mistake, here's what happened, and their eyes are darting all around the fucking place, are you going to believe that story? Nope. I'm not believing it. I might take it with a grain of salt. Like, okay, let's verify.
You trying to convince me, or what are you doing?
Or yourself? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have that question for my guys a lot of times, because especially when they mess up and they start asking questions and their eyes start darting around, and then they'll give me another story and try to make better eye contact. I'm like, all right, cool. So you've given me 2 stories. Which lie do you want me to believe?
the believable one?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, and then also that tone, that inflection that your voice comes across. If everything is like a question at the end of a story, are you trying to convince me or yourself? I don't know.
I hate that. You alluded to developing a good relationship with your employees. You mentioned earlier that you have a guy that he said he'll work for you, but you're not really buddies. That's a perfect example of developing a good relationship. You don't have to be best friends. You don't have to go out and have tea and play fucking pinochle on the weekends. You don't have to be was that Xbox friends? Was it on Xbox?
Friends on Xbox Live, yeah.
So,
or PlayStation or whatever you fucking Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, you don't have to be that, but as long as you have a good relationship with your team, like, there's no doubt. And even with the people amongst your team, they have to be, work together, but they don't have to be best buddies. But you probably have 2 people on your team that fucking kick ass when they work together. Then they go their separate ways at the end of the day.
I have that with almost my entire team right now. I can tell you most of what's going on in my team's lives right now. Hey, this person got into a car accident over the weekend. He's okay. It's just a fender bender. He's good with his car or whatever. But this person is going through a divorce. I don't need to know anything else. Hey, man, you good? Yeah. How's everything going? Oh, man, this person, my ex is trying to take me to court for more child support or whatever, and fucking this and fucking that. And oh, man, that sucks. Anything I can do for you? No? All right, cool, man. You good? You need anything? No? All right, cool. But they appreciate that time that you take to just sit there and go, oh, he cares or she cares or whatever. They got to know me a little bit. I'm not saying get best friends, not saying have them over for drinks and everything else. I'm just saying it helps to just try that little bit of, you doing all right today?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, boss. Cool, man. Let's do this. And that ties in with getting to know your team members, developing that good relationship. Because if you know your team members, if you know who they are, you can see when their performance is dropped, and you're not wondering why. And then you can go to that person and go, "Hey, man, I noticed that you normally produce 20 widgets in a week. You've only produced 15. Everything okay?" Oh, well, yeah. My shoulder hurts. Oh, what's going on? Oh, well, I hurt it at the gym when I was lifting. Oh, okay. You need any time off? Need to go see a doctor or anything? No, I think I'm good. I'm just going to rehab it. Okay, cool. Let me know. I'll follow up. All it takes 3 seconds.
Build that commitment to your team. So your guy that hurt his shoulder, if you notice, like, after a day or two, he's still kind of wincing or complaining about his shoulder, then you being a leader, you have to, hey, we set up a doctor's appointment. You're going to go to the doctor's office to get this checked out. I want to make sure you're okay. With that development, it shows that you have a commitment to your team and be like, oh, my team leader, he really cares about me. He wants me to build widgets. I get that. He wants my well-being to be good to go too. So that just showing that you have that commitment for your team also helps being a great leader to your team.
Right. And that also, the commitment can go back to, hey, standing up for, hey, I made this decision. It was my responsibility. I got it. These guys fucked up. They executed it poorly, but it was my plan. And I set them up for failure. That's my fault. And don't be mad at them. They did their own bad stuff individually, but overall, it's my responsibility. I take the full responsibility for whatever incident happened or anything else. And then your people will see that and go, oh man, I get that I messed up, but at least he cares.
Yeah. Basically it's just showing that you 100% have your team's back.
Yeah. It's that. And then, it also helps set a good example, because the way I always look, we talked about this in a previous episode of how to train your replacement. One of the best ways that you can, in my opinion, that you can raise kids and influence a team and train your replacement is to set a good example. I don't know how many times people learn from monkey see, monkey do. This guy over here gets drunk every weekend, comes in Monday morning and is hungover. It must be okay, so I could do that too. And then maybe they can't handle it as well as you can because they're younger and their tolerance isn't as much, or whatever the case happens to be. But if you set a good example, hey, I show up 30 minutes early so I can be prepped and ready for the day, so I can get myself organized, get my head clear, get my head in that workspace environment. I'm good to go. Then your team will see that and be like, all right, that's what I need to do. Got it.
Yeah, the setting a good example is one of the things that you kind of condition yourself to over time. You're being spotted as a leader until you start seeing, I don't want to say minions, but until you start seeing people kind of mimic what you do. Like if you show up 30 minutes early, then maybe they'll show up 20 minutes early or 25 minutes early because they want to see what you do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know from my personal experience, I would look at you when I was working for you at how to, how does he interact with people? How does he influence others? You helped develop me into the leader I am today, and a lot of it came from your interactions that you probably had no idea that I was even paying attention to.
Well, thank you, sir.
I'm here for you, bud. But it's just that, because there's certain things that, if you don't know how to do something, I always say this, go find a master. If somebody is doing what you want to do very, very well, go sit at the foot of the master and learn from that person. If you want to go lift 1,000 pounds, go find some big motherfucker at the gym and be like, hey man, how do I get to where you are? All right, cool. If you want to learn how to be a multimillionaire, go find some and be like, what are they doing differently than what I'm doing? And start trying to do a little bit of that sort of stuff. If you want to be a NASCAR driver, an astronaut, whatever the case, find somebody and sit there and go, how do I do what you do? And can you help me? 9 times out of 10, that person is going to go, yep, let me show you some stuff.
Yeah. It's all building up your support networks. As a leader, you got to be able to know who you can reach out to, what information you can gather from other people. You want to sit at the feet of the master, then you have to be able to locate that master within your network. You probably could randomly pick one guy off the street and be like, hey, I want to be like you. You probably won't get the same result as if you already kind of know someone that knows someone.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. It definitely helps if you have that network. That's why networking is such a great tool, and I get it. Most people are like, networking. So, it's such an overused word, and I agree. But I don't know how many times, hey, I want to do this, and I can learn a little bit from this person. I can learn a little bit from this person. I can learn a little bit from this person to get me to where I want to go, and give me a clear vision on how to do that stuff. And then I just go forth and do it the best way I know how until I get told, hey, you're doing this wrong, because I'll make new connections along the way. And that's, I have so many people, I don't say so many people, I have a couple people that are constantly asking me, how do I be a better leader? How do I do what you do and interact with people and get things done the way you get things done? Because you seem to get stuff done more than anybody else. And I'm like, look, man, I could show you everything, but let me connect you with somebody else that I know that I learned from, and we can, continue to learn together. And that helps out quite a bit.
We went through a whole list of ways to influence a team. So bottom line, let's see, you want to run back through some main topics real quick?
Yeah, so bottom line, start with trust. Because if you don't have trust, nobody's following you.
You got to stay humble.
Yeah, you gotta get that criticism and be able to laugh at yourself. You gotta, make sure that you're doing what you need to be doing. Show that competence.
Yep.
Make sure you're good to go. Help others find their voice. Because, like we said, you have to train your replacement, and if your replacement doesn't have their voice, what good are they?
Right. None. Well, little.
Yeah, they're not effective.
Provide a chance for small wins amongst the team.
Yeah.
Believe in your team members by serving others first.
Mm-hmm. Thinking big for those guys on your team. Balancing that autonomy and that authority, because you got to give them a chance to learn. There's these helicopter moms or lawnmower moms. If you don't know what I mean, Google it. Have fun. But, you got to balance that autonomy and that authority. If you just mow down every single problem in front of them, then they're never going to learn. They're never going to go through adversity, and then you end up with spoiled, entitled people.
Yeah, they lack the troubleshooting skills.
Right.
With life. Influence with your character. Make sure you clarify your expectations.
Yeah, being passionate and demonstrating that openness with by influencing with your character. If you do those three things, that helps.
Practice effective nonverbal cues with don't slouch, remove your phone or any other device that could take away. Maintain that eye contact.
Getting to know your team members and developing that relationship with them, because that helps build that commitment between your team and yourself. Because otherwise, if you have no commitment, you have no trust, and ultimately you're not going to be a leader. You're just going to be a wannabe. Yeah.
And with being in a leadership position, you want to set good examples. And the last thing is you want to help build a support network for any of your leadership skills to be developed.
Yeah, or your subordinates' leadership skills. I'll be the first to admit, I don't know everything. I don't. But I almost can guarantee you that I know people that know a lot more than I do, and know certain things that I don't. And I know certain things that they don't.
I always often, if you have a question with something, go ahead. There's no stupid questions. Just go ahead and ask the question. If I don't know the answer, I promise you, to the nth degree, I will find the answer for you.
It takes a lot to influence people. I mean, but when they're on your team, if you just take that time and you develop them and you do everything right, eventually your bosses will see that your team runs the smoothest and the most efficient, and they're gonna end up promoting you. At which point you're gonna wish that you had trained a replacement and developed your team a little bit more to take your spot.
So now I'm gonna ask this question to you, sir.
Oh, I like questions.
Well, I mean, this one's gonna revert back to our flavor, because I know you're in your final third.
Oh.
What is that flavor profile you're getting now, sir?
Let me take a puff, and there's a little bit of black pepper. Nope. White pepper coming through. There's still a woodsy, oakish. That cedar kind of melted out. I'm still getting a very earthy, peaty type taste out of it, but with a little bit that pepper's coming in a little bit stronger for that finish. It's very good, very balanced cigar, and it's just Diesel's probably one of my favorite cigar companies. I think they make a great cigar. Just overall great construction. I have had to relight this a couple times, so the construction's it's all right. It's towards the end, so I may be just talking too much.
Quite often. when I talk a lot. My flavor has subsided to if I had to put it in words, a creamy jalapeno.
Sour cream.
Yeah,
sour cream and jalapenos.
Yes,
like on a street taco.
Oh, perfect.
What?
I didn't mention this at the beginning, but the construction of the cigar was beautiful.
Beautiful.
But yeah, it's definitely living up to the name of street taco. Again, it could be just a mental influence, but the flavors are definitely there, regardless if you get the same thing or not.
Nice. All right. Well, so we've gone over taste profiles and all those kinds of terms for cigars. It's been great. And then we got to talk about leadership and how to influence a team, which is always, I think it's interesting. It's very much a balance, because if you try too hard to influence, you just kind of come off as pushy.
Yeah, you don't want to come that. That's why the influencing part is really more of a character of that person. Because if you're one of them, I'm just that dry talking person, it's not going to come across as if you was like, hey man, I have a lot of passion for this team, let's get motivated. Both of those are going to sound different coming from anyone. So the influencing your team is definitely something that has to be practiced over time. It's not something you can just do overnight.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely takes some work, and definitely takes a lot of time to build that trust, build that commitment, learn your team members, and then, go from there. But until next time, my name's Austin.
And I'm Dice.
And we will see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to Leadership of the Leaf. The comments and opinions expressed by the host and guests does not reflect the opinions of those that broadcast this show, nor does it reflect any of our affiliates.